3,500 years ago, Europe's first great civilization vanished almost overnight. They had flushing toilets before the pyramids of Giza were finished. Then one volcano, one earthquake, one invasion, and they were gone. In the next, you'll learn exactly what killed them. You'll also learn why historians still can't agree on the answer. Around 3000 BC, a mysterious people settled the island of Crete. We don't even know what they called themselves originally. The name Minoan comes from King Minos, a Greek myth. They built Europe's first advanced society, centuries before classical Greece. No walls, no fortresses, an almost unheard of choice for the era. That means one thing: the sea itself was their defense. Their navy controlled trade routes across the entire Aegean Sea. By 1900 BC, they were already the region's dominant power. In 1900, archaeologist Arthur Evans began digging at a place called Knossos. What he found shocked the entire archaeological world. A palace complex with over 1,300 interconnected rooms and corridors. Multiple stories tall, with light wells and ventilation shafts built in. They had a working drainage system with terracotta pipes. Some rooms even had flushing toilets minus 3,000 years before Rome. The palace's maze-like layout likely inspired the myth of the labyrinth. Legend says a minotaur lived inside, half man, half bull. Bull imagery covers Minoan art, but historians debate exactly why. Some argue bulls symbolized power. Others say fertility or ritual. Art, life, and culture. Minoan frescoes still shock people with how alive they feel. Bright dolphins, leaping bulls, and women dressed in elaborate fashion. One famous fresco shows acrobats vaulting directly over charging bulls. Historians still argue whether bull leaping was sport, ritual, or myth. Minoan women appear in art with striking social visibility and status. Some scholars believe Minoan society gave women real religious authority. Frescoes show priestesses, goddesses, and female figures holding snakes. Was Crete led by a goddess-centered religion? The evidence is debated. Their homes had multiple stories, painted walls, and stone-paved streets. This wasn't a primitive society, it was startlingly advanced. The Minoans left behind thousands of clay tablets. They're covered in a script called Linear A. Here's the unsettling part. No one has ever fully deciphered it. We can read individual symbols but not the underlying language itself. It doesn't match Greek, Egyptian, or any known ancient tongue. A later script, Linear B, was cracked by Michael Ventris in 1952. Linear B turned out to be an early form of Greek, but Linear B belonged to the Mycenaeans, not the Minoans themselves. The Minoans' own voice, in their own words, remains silent today. The Minoans weren't just artists, they were master merchants. Their pottery has been found in Egypt, Syria, and Mesopotamia. Egyptian tomb paintings even depict Minoan traders bringing exotic goods. Copper, tin, and bronze moved through their ports constantly. This trade network made Crete wealthy beyond its size. But that same network made their economy fragile and interdependent. Here's the myth most documentaries repeat. A volcano wiped them out. Around 1600 BC, the island of Thera erupted catastrophically nearby. It's considered one of the largest eruptions in human history. The blast buried the Minoan town of Akrotiri in ash instantly. Ash clouds likely darkened skies and disrupted crops for years. Tsunamis reportedly struck coastal settlements across the Aegean region. For decades, historians assumed this eruption ended Minoan civilization directly. It's a clean, dramatic story, but the evidence tells something else. Archaeologists later found Minoan ruins built above the volcanic ash layer. That means people kept living and building for years afterward. Crete's northern coast shows surprisingly little tsunami damage from Thera. Trade with Egypt appears to have continued well past the eruption. So the volcano didn't kill the Minoans, not immediately anyway. Instead, it likely triggered a slow, decades-long economic decline. Lost ships, disrupted harvests, and damaged trade routes weakened them. Weakness, not destruction, and weakness invites conquest. Crete sits on one of the most seismically active zones in Europe. Minoan palaces were destroyed and rebuilt multiple times across centuries. The first Knossos palace was likely leveled by an earthquake around 1700 BC. Each disaster forced reconstruction, draining resources and manpower repeatedly. This cycle of collapse and rebuilding may have hollowed out their society. By the time real trouble came, Crete was already exhausted. Around 1450 BC, nearly every palace on Crete burned down suddenly. Every palace, that is, except one. Knossos itself survived. Soon after, Mycenaean-style objects flood the archaeological record on Crete. Mycenaean-style burials, weapons, and pottery appear where Minoan ones once stood. Linear B tablets, written in Greek, start appearing at Knossos. This suggests Crete was no longer run by Minoans, but by Greeks. Were they invaders, opportunists, or simply the last power standing? Some historians argue the Mycenaeans exploited a civilization already crumbling. Others believe it was outright military conquest, plain and simple. The truth is probably a brutal mix of both forces. Even Knossos, the survivor, didn't last much longer under Mycenaean rule. Around 1370 BC, fire consumed the palace of Knossos completely. Some scholars push that final destruction date closer to 1200 BC. The debate itself proves how murky this timeline still is. After that, Minoan identity fades quietly out of the historical record. Europe's first great civilization simply stopped appearing in the story. Some historians connect the Thera eruption to the legend of Atlantis. Plato described a lost island civilization destroyed in a single day. The timing and location line up suspiciously well with Minoan Crete. If true, one of history's most famous myths began right here. Minoan art style clearly influenced later Mycenaean and Greek culture. In many ways, classical Greece was built on Minoan foundations. So what actually killed the Minoans? Nature, war, or decay? The honest answer: historians still genuinely disagree on this today. It probably wasn't one single catastrophe, but a slow, layered collapse. Volcano, earthquakes, trade collapse, and invasion, a perfect storm. Until Linear A is deciphered, we may never hear their side. Their language, their voice, is still locked inside undeciphered clay. Europe's first civilization didn't fall in a single dramatic moment. It was worn down piece by piece until nothing remained. And somewhere out there, their own words are still waiting to be read.